Are you a basketball player that wants to get the most out of your summer workouts? It doesn't matter if you're working out with a trainer or just working out on your own. Today, what I'm going to share is something simple that you should add to your workouts that's going to help you get the most out of your efforts this summer. Let's jump in and discuss. Welcome back to Hard Smart Together. I'm Coach Dave. I'm here every week to help basketball players become the smart, confident players that coaches love. So today we are talking about your summer workout, and I'm going to give you, like I said, what I think is a simple tip and a simple thing that you should focus on in order to make your summer workouts that much more effective for yourself. Now, as we get into it, this tip is really simple, but if you haven't practiced it, it might be not so simple for some of you. So it might be something that you need to work on in order to implement it in your workouts. So before I jump into that, just for joining me today, I'd like to offer up a free gift. It is a checklist of what I feel are the 8 most important skills, and more specifically intangible skills that you can have that are going to make you stand out to coaches as a smart, confident player. So I make that available in just a downloadable PDF. It's a checklist. It has the skills. It also has some ways that you can implement those skills so that you can start implementing them, practicing them, showing them to coaches, and then coaches, like I said, you'll start to stand out to your coach. So I'll make that available. You can either scan the QR code below. I'll put a link in the description below as well. If you're listening on the podcast or just listening to the video, you can simply go to hardsmarttogether.com/intangibles. Again, it's hardsmarttogether.com/intangibles. But I make that free gift available to you just for joining me today. So your summer workouts, we're almost at summer. You've probably only got a few weeks of school left, and a lot of you as basketball players, or even if you're a parent listening, you're probably planning your basketball players' summer around improvement so that next season, you're that much better. And so some of you have the ability to have a trainer that you've hired to put you through drills, to work you out, to help you improve. Others might be putting together your own workouts, and you're going to work on, moves that are going to be, stuff that you want to work on in order to improve for next season. You're going to work on the shooting, the ball handling, things of that nature. But I want to talk about trainers for a second because I see so many. I follow so many on Instagram or Facebook or even on YouTube. And I see examples of the workouts that they're putting you, the basketball players, through. And there's some really good workouts that I see out there. There are also some that kind of make me cringe. And I want you to think about this as I give you the thing that you're going to focus on during these workouts. So what I'll see sometimes that makes me cringe as a coach is a series of cones. And they'll set up these cones, or maybe you as an individual are setting up cones. And then each cone, you're stopping at it, and you're making a series of, typically it'll start like either at the top of the key or the wing, and there will be a cone. And there's this series of ball handling moves. It'll be like around the back, between the legs, escape, dribble, spin, and then on to the next cone, and a series of like 3 ball handling moves. And then it'll be kind of a roundabout path to the basket where they may have you finish with a wrong-footed, off-handed reverse layup. Now, I look at those drills and I go, it's not very game-like, okay? And so today's focus is really on having an imagination. And like I said, it might be a simple tip for you today, or it might be difficult to have an imagination, especially with, kind of today's society and the phone showing us everything we need to know. I want you to have an imagination, and it's one of the greatest attributes a basketball player can have, but especially in your workout. So, what do I mean by an imagination? What does that cone represent, right? I look at that, let's say that you're starting on the wing. I look at that cone and I go, if that represented a defender, okay, what kind of stance is that defender in? What foot is forward? Is their hand reaching out? What angle is their hips at? All kinds of things that you want to imagine that defender. And I'm thinking a game-like scenario that I just said, a trainer might have you go through this series of ball handling moves at each cone is probably going to be more of a really strong position with the ball where you do a rip through move. And then you imagine that defender is probably on your hip and making contact with you as you make a straight line power drive to the basket. And then because you've got somebody on your hip and you've probably got some help coming, you're going to make a strong jump stop with the ball because hands are going to be in there. And then you're going to make a pump fake and try and get the defenders in the air. And then you might make a finish with a power layup. That is game-like. Now, take the other scenario where you're practicing a series of moves at every cone that's supposed to represent defenders, and imagine what your coach would think of you if you created the habit of doing that in the game. I can imagine you're probably going to get a seat in the bench after a few of those kind of drives where you're, just making all this series of moves and reverse off-handed, wrong-footed layups. Not strong moves, not basketball plays, game-like basketball plays. So, what I want you to focus on during your workouts is making things game-like by having an imagination, whether it's making a move at a cone or whatever you represent as that player that's defending you and where they're defending you, how they're defending you, the game situation you're in, where your teammates are maybe when you're making those moves and making those drives, why you might be making pass fakes or pump fakes, and what the defenders would be doing at those very times. That is how you improve your game-like and game speed types of workouts. Even in your shooting workout, have an imagination. Why am I getting this shot? Is this an open shot? What's the defender doing? What will the coach think of this shot? Have an imagination, right? And imagine the situations that you'll be on the floor playing in a game. Now, when we talk about all these drills, you might be asking yourself, well, I want to work on my ball handling. I am all for ball handling drills, but those are not drills that are maybe finished at the hoop, right? Those aren't game imagination drills. I think there's a great place for two ball dribbling. You're never going to have two balls on the court at the same time. That's not a game-like drill. That's a drill to get you comfortable with the ball, to improve your ball handling, to give you a great feel for the ball. Maybe it's two ball dribbling stationary. Maybe it's two ball dribbling on the move. Maybe it's a series of moves. But it's never in that scenario where there's a cone and that's supposed to represent a defender and you're making a move in order to get to the hoop and make a strong finish. In those, you need to have really strong fundamentals, and you have to imagine what is going on the floor and what your coach would think of this move that you're making and what your coach would think of this finish that you're making or this shot that you're taking, things of that nature. So there is a place for ball handling drills. It's not typically in those kind of, on the floor, at the basket, finishing plays or finishing with shots. When you have a series of cones or chairs or spots on the floor and you're making these moves, I want you to have more of an imagination of game situation, defensive players, what they're doing, where the help might be, what your teammates might be doing, what you're trying to accomplish, all those things. And if implementing an imagination at first is kind of difficult because you're not used to doing it, it'll get easier. Believe me. The more you start imagining game scenarios, the more you start imagining what defenders are doing, and then making your workouts very game-like, the faster you'll improve, the easier it will be to have an imagination. And you'll be surprised how that will translate to your play on the floor because you've already imagined those scenarios. Now you've been practicing things that will actually happen in a basketball game. So that's your quick tip for this week. Be sure to focus on having an imagination. If you are using with a trainer or on your own, using cones or chairs or spots on the floor or whatever it is, imagine what those represent and make appropriate strong moves based off of what a defender might be doing. So that's what we got for you this week. As always, I appreciate all the likes. I appreciate you forwarding this to somebody that might need to hear it, a player, a parent, a coach, anybody that you think could use this information. And be sure to comment below if you've used an imagination in your workouts in the past and how that's gone for you, or maybe it's something new for you, and tell me how it's going. So until next week, remember to play hard, play smart, and play together. See you next week.